accepted. These are from the sunan of fasting. And fourthly, and not last, and I'm only mentioning some of these, is al-iqlalu min al-ta'am, which is do not overeat when you break your fast. Good luck implementing that. All right, and I'll say that to myself to begin with. طيب. Now we move to things that break your fast. So now we said there are two main pillars of fasting. Where are they? Who can tell me? The two pillars. Without these, your fast is nullified. An-niyya and withholding. An-niyyat wal-imsak. Pillars. Ikhwani. Anything without pillars collapses. This tripod in front of us with a recorder on it, it's got 3 pillars. Remove one of the pillars, it will fall. I'm on a chair with 4 pillars. Take a pillar, trust me, the chair will fall. And the list goes on. Your fasting has 2 pillars. Remove a pillar, it has fallen. Okay? An-niyyat wal-imsak. Now we are talking about the things that will definitely, no questions asked, will break your fast. Number 1, eating and drinking on purpose. Eating and drinking on purpose. And I know some of us are thinking, okay, what about if I forget? And I'll come to that. What if I pretend I'm forgetting? Now that's a different conversation. If I intend to eat or drink and I eat and drink, my fasting is nullified. طيب. Al-jima', which is sexual intercourse. Big question, or a very common question, especially the newly married brothers ask, can I hug my wife? Can I kiss my wife? Can I hold hands with my wife? Can I fight with my wife? Brother, do everything you want. Just do not engage in sexual intercourse. Some brothers are like, okay, but you know, I've been married for 50 years and my wife, I'll see her every day. It's not like it's going to be a big difference for me. Then we tell them, no problem. Kiss your wife, hold her hand, hug her, sleep next to her, no issue. Because you've been around for a while, you could hold yourself. But a newly married brother and a newly married sister, they're like, oh, can we just lie down next to each other? The advice would be no, because whatever leads to haram can be considered haram. So if a husband can't keep his hands off his wife, and the wife can't keep her hands off her husband, and they like to be intimate, like to be always together, do not be around each other whilst you're fasting. Do not be lovey-dovey and kissing and hugging and holding hands and lying down next to each other, because that might lead to things. Okay, ikhwani? So, sleeping together, as in sexual intercourse, will break your fast. However, wallah, you give your wife a hug, a kiss, a tap on the shoulder, you hold her hand as you're walking down the road, it's no problems, inshallah. طيب. The third thing, ikhwani, is something called purposely vomiting, ta'ammudul qayb. Now sometimes some people, and this happens, you vomit without wanting to vomit. You know, and sorry to get gross here, you vomit without wanting to to vomit. Like you ate too much food, you ate too much drinks, or whatever it is, you ate something off and involuntarily you vomit. That, bi'idhnillah azza wa jal, will not break your fast. Where will it break your fast is that if you voluntarily vomit, meaning that you insert your fingers in your mouth and you force yourself to vomit, that will induced vomit will actually break your fast. For sisters, you know, their menstrual cycle, al-hayd wal-nifas, whether it's menstrual cycle, whether it's post-birth blood, etc., that will all break your fast. Something called masturbation, al-istimna. Al-istimna, ikhwani, will break the fast. So if a brother or a sister engages in such an act, it will break their fast. Wallahu ta'ala alam. However, but even some of the scholars have even put underneath that, if a person keeps looking at haram, so I'll keep looking at bad things on my phone, or I'll see, you know, a bad thing walking, I'll keep looking at it, and then that induces me to ejaculate, or the equivalent in the male or for the male or female, that would also break your fast. So ikhwani, we need to be mindful. However, if I'm minding my own business and I'm asleep and I see a very colorful wet dream and I'm fasting, yeah, and I wake up, does that break my fast or doesn't it? It does not break your fast. You weren't a willing participant. You just happened to be there. Okay, ikhwani, there's a difference. So if it happens in your dreams, it stays in your dreams. Yeah? But if it happens whilst you're awake, you have broken your fast. طيب. Another group of scholars have also put something called niyyatul fitr. Niyyatul fitr is when I intend to break my fast. So now I'm fasting. I am, waiting for waiting for the adhan to kick off, and I'm like, you know what, there's 5 more hours, I can't do this, I'm going to break my fast. I'll go all the way to the canteen at school or work or wherever it is, or to the nearest petrol station, or I'll go to the fridge, I grab the water, I'm about to drink it, and then I collapse. Believe it or not, a lot of the scholars are of the opinion, because you intended and acted upon your intention, you have broken your fast. So you have to repeat that day. So even, remember what we said, the 2 pillars of fasting are an-niyat wal-imsak. So when you intend to break your fast, and it's not just the thought, oh, you know what, should I break my fast? I'm really craving a cigarette. I'm craving the vape. I'm craving to be with my wife. Should I break my fast? Should not break my fast? That's just thoughts. When you intend, and you know what you're intending, and you want to break your fast, and you action it, and you go and proceed with something with it, that's like an intention with no doubts about it, that breaks your fast. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Okay. There's another couple of things, and I'll quickly mention them. One is something called colonoscopy. Colonoscopy, ikhwan, is a procedure in which a physician will insert something from a particular part of your body, and they want to check your colon, etc. And it breaks your fast. If a doctor tells you, hey, tomorrow you have a colonoscopy, just know that has broken your fast. By proceeding with that procedure, you will have to repeat that day. طيب. There's also smoking. Some brothers think, hey, smoking is just vape, it's just air, I'm not taking anything in. Believe it or not, you're actually inhaling maybe a dozen things like tar, nicotine, etc., etc. All those things go in and break your fast. Wallahu ta'ala alam. طيب. Any questions on what breaks your fast before I move on? I'll come to that, inshallah. Good question. Eye drops, ear drops, asthma puffers, all that stuff, I'll come to, inshallah. Anything else of what we discussed? Yep, no problem. طيب. Things that do not break your fast. Things that do not break your fast. I'll begin with something called injections. Injections, ikhwani, are 2 types. Injections, if you go to a doctor, there are 2 types of injections, generally speaking. I'm sure there's more, but I'm just talking from a fiqh perspective. Okay, for those medical students out there and those healthcare practitioners, I'm not here talking about medicine. I'm talking from a fiqh perspective. There are 2 types. The fuqaha look at injections as 2 types. Nourishing and non-nourishing. What does that mean? It means that there are injections that contain nourishment. Nourishment meaning that if I was in the hospital and the nurse comes and puts a needle in my hand and it connects to a drip, and that drip has fluids in it, has glucose, has nutrients all the way connected to me, despite the fact that it's not going through my mouth, it's nourishing me. Hence, anything that's nourishing, any medication that's nourishing that comes through an injection, ikhwani, the majority of the scholars are of the opinion that it nullifies or breaks your fast. Meaning, if I go to the doctor and I ask, he gives me an injection an injection of vitamin D. Many of our sisters take it. Vitamin K, vitamin, I think A, whatever vitamin that they inject you with, just know that the moment they give you something called vitamin, or iron infusion, or whatever it is, the moment it's a nourishment, it has broken your fast. I hope this makes sense, ikhwani. Remember, any injection that comes in that's nourishing, it breaks your fast. There are injections that don't nourish you, like the COVID vaccine. That's not nourishing. Like the flu vax. That's not nourishing. It's just antibodies against the viruses and what have you. And many other injections. Even a local anesthetic, wallahu alam, does not break your fast. So if, for example, you go to the dentist and he injects into your gums a local anesthetic, and we'll talk about the 2 types of anesthesia, local and systemic. Local anesthetic, and he injects something in your gums to numb it so he can operate, wallahu alam, that does not break your fast. The moment that they're nourishing you with something, that breaks your fast. I hope injections are clear, ikhwani. Okay, something called kuhul for the beauty enthusiasts out there, especially within the sister world. Afwan. Kuhul is like it's like a thing that it's not mascara, I don't know what to call it. It's like an eyeliner of some sort. So it's the Arabs used to use it, and some people use it, and some people have the opinion that it's even an act of sunnah or يعني a mustahab or what have you. We won't go into that. If a person wants to use a kuhl, wallahu ta'ala alam, that doesn't break your fast. Drops. Within drops we have eye drops, ear drops and nose drops. Wallahu ta'ala alam, they do not break your fast. And there is difference of opinion, of course, on everything. Do they go into the jawf? Don't they go into the jawf? What is al-jawf? What is al-jawf, which is the internal part of the human body? Some of the scholars are of the opinion it's just the stomach. Some of the others are of the opinion it's the lungs and the stomach and everything that's between your right and left shoulder, and the list goes on. What I'm giving you, Ikhwani, is sort of the summarized version of what the fiqh for these matters is. However, if, for example, you're using an eye drop, as a brother has asked about earlier, just put your finger on the corner of your eye for about a few minutes, up to 5 minutes. That would stop any systemic absorption into your system, into your body. Same thing with your nose. If you learn how to use the nasal drops properly, or the nasal spray properly, just to avoid it going into the back of your throat. Ear drops as well, wallahu ta'ala alam, they do not break your fast, especially if they are medicated and what have you. Things like suppositories, and yes, there isn't a difference of opinion on them. However, wallahu ta'ala alam, they do not break your fast. So a lot of the medications, whether they're going to the eye, the nose, the ear, etc., do not break the fast, wallahu ta'ala alam, so long that they are not going through the mouth to the stomach. Even sublingual tablets. Some people take something called like an angine tablet for their angina. You know, it's a heart condition. It's a tablet that dissolves underneath your tongue and it gets absorbed into your system. It doesn't actually, wallahu alam, break the fast because it doesn't go into the stomach. Now, going to the dentist for cleaning, for a bit of minor work, so long that nothing goes past the throat. The key element here, Ikhwani, is throat. The moment that something goes past the throat, you're at the dentist and he pulls out a tooth, the tooth goes into your stomach, or he's pulling out a tooth and a lot of blood goes into your stomach, that will break your fast. Hence why, Ikhwani, if you have some dental work, do it before Ramadan or after Ramadan. Do not wait till Ramadan's coming, I'm going to go fix my teeth. Khwani, it's not a lovely experience, to say the least. So if you want to fix your teeth or do something, do it before Ramadan or after Ramadan. I understand emergencies happen. If you need to go, just do your best to explain to the person, I'm fasting. Please make sure nothing goes past my throat. Something goes past your throat, just repeat the day. It's nothing that you planned, etc. Now, moving forward, doing a blood test. So doing a blood test, you go to the doctor, he says you have an infection, you have something wrong with you, he needs to check up on you, etc. He sends you to the pathology guys and they take blood out of you. Some of the scholars of the opinion that it does break your fast. However, wallahu ta'ala alam, the vast majority of the opinion that it doesn't. And as you can see, Ikhwani, there is difference of opinion, so there is a bit of flexibility with these matters. Tayyib, can I swim while I'm fasting? Yes, you can swim, but you run the risk of breaking your fast. Can I have a shower? Today was a hot day. I would love to jump in the shower, jump in the pool, go for gold. But do not risk water going past your throat. If you're going to have a shower and you're the type that has showers and he has to or she has to get water in her throat, in her mouth, do not do that. Then avoid the shower, avoid the bath, avoid the swimming. But wallah, you could swim and you could shower and you could do whatever it is, and you've got no fear of water going into your mouth, there's no problems, ikhwani, inshallah. And that is a very common question. Local anesthesia. I have, if you're a very good looking person like me with a lot of hair in your hand or your legs or whatever it is, and I'm assuming sisters do this, they put creams on to numb their hands so they could wax them and remove the hair and do all sorts of stuff. If you put creams to numb, so local anesthesia to numb it, or the dentist puts an injection in your teeth, or whatever it is that numbs the hand, the teeth, whatever it is, so long it doesn't go past the throat into the stomach, it doesn't break the fast. Okay, Khwani? Local anesthesia is different to systemic anesthesia. We'll come to that in a sec. Okay. Something called a siwak. A siwak, for those that don't know, is a sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ that he highly recommended the Muslims to engage in. A siwak is like that, the stick that people use to brush their teeth. It's a sunnah of the Prophet, etc. Does it break your fast? No, it doesn't. However, if you get too obsessive about it being dirty and what have you, because I was, when I was about maybe 12 years old, obsessed with my siwak, and then I was scared that it's going to break my fast. So I was given advice that you could wash it. I used to obsess over it needs to be clean because I'm cleaning my teeth with it. You could wash it after you use it. So use it and then wash it. You don't have to wash it and then use it and then obsess over water going into your mouth, etc. Now, طيب. Moving forward, these things still do not break your fast. So whether you have a shower, whether you have, if you swim, where you do a blood test, dentist, donating blood, etc., etc., all that doesn't break your fast. However, I have to take note that Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah is of the opinion that drawing blood from the body, whether it's a blood test, whether you're donating blood, etc., breaks your fast. So if you're a strict follower of Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, that would break your fast. Other than that, wallahu ta'ala alam, doesn't. Last but not least, on the list of things that do not break your fast is something called medicinal patches. You have, la qaddar Allah, you're in a car accident, doctor gives you a strong patches put in your back, Duragesic or something to get rid of the pain. And this is different to nicotine patches. I'll come to that in a sec. But Duragesic or some of those strong painkillers that, you know, some of the brothers or sisters have to use, or for even some of the angina medications that are patches. Any patch that is medicinal, any patch that's medicinal in nature does not break your fast. Okay, Khwani? Even if it's a painkiller. So any patch that's medicinal, even if it's a painkiller that you need for medication purposes, and when I say patch, it's a skin patch. It doesn't break your fast, wallahu ta'ala alam. This is different to nicotine patches. Remember, we said anything that nourishes you is different to medication. So far, these are the things that don't break your fast. Are we all happy with it? We're all happy? Any questions? I'll come to that. That's a topic on its own. So these are the things that don't break your fast. Tfaddal. Good question. Okay, so we said siwak doesn't break your fast, yeah? However, brushing your teeth. If you want to use toothpaste and what have you, you're exposing yourself to potentially swallowing some of the toothpaste and what have you. What I highly recommend, either use siwak or use your toothpaste without too much, toothbrush, without toothpaste. Does that make sense? Without too much toothpaste. If you're going to sit there and brush your teeth with toothpaste and then for the rest of the day keep spitting into bins and what have you, or into sinks and obsessing over it, do not brush your teeth. And remember the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he said, what translates to mean that the smell that comes out, that, you know, that not very hot smell that, you know, that comes out from the fasting man's breath is more beloved to Allah than the smell and the fragrance of musk. Okay, Ikhwani? So, Ikhwani, don't be ashamed of being to have that fastest breath. Ikhwani, it is something that's beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, any other questions on things that don't break your fast? Now we're going to go into the things that actually break your fast. Where are they? Okay, good question. So let's say I am hot, or I am thirsty, or I want to wash my mouth. Yeah, you could do, as part of our wudu, we'll do something called madmada. Yeah, we will wash our mouths. Okay, however, do not let water go past your throat. Some people, you know, they wash their mouths easily and they spit out the water, we're done. Some other people want to gargle, you know, they'll do anything to get water into their past their throat. So, Khwani, do not risk it. The days of Ramadan are numbered. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, أَيَّامًا مَعْدُودَات. Very limited, few days, ma'dudat, they're counted these days. Do not risk breaking your fast because, wallah, you gargled or you swallowed water, etc. That'll be really silly. Okay, I just realized that we've covered what breaks your fast and what doesn't break your fast. Now there are things that there's difference of opinion on. Okay, so the brother mentioned the asthma puffer. Now asthma puffers, ikhwani, just as a rule of thumb, they come in something called relievers and preventers. Relievers are things that it's like used for emergencies, or used before you exercise, or you use before if you have an asthma attack, etc. That's what you use. Usually it's like an Asmol or a Bricanol or something like that. Okay, ikhwani. There's two opinions on asthma puffers altogether. And there's only two matters here. So either they break your fast or don't break your fast. The sort of the Saudi school of thought, the Hanabila of today, etc., are of the opinion that the asthma puffer, whether reliever or preventer, does not break your fast. Meaning that you'll find a lot of fatwa coming from Ibn Uthaymeen, Bin Baz, bin Jibrin, the Majma' al-Fuqaha, and all the يعني a lot of the schools of and the Fuqaha from Saudi and the surrounding of Saudi Arabia of the opinion that don't break your fast. And we respect their opinion. Okay? We respect their opinion. Then we find on the other side another camp. You know, the Dar al-Ifta al-Masriya and some of the other guys of the opinion it breaks your fast. Now, I'm going to put on my pharmacist hat on for a fraction of a second. When an aerosol is sprayed, 70% of the contents go into your stomach. Now, what is going into my stomach? We're getting an aerosol, we're getting medication, we're getting air particles, we're getting some little particles going past the throat into your stomach. About roughly 35-40%, depends on how good your technique is, actually ends up in your lungs. Okay? And we left it for the fuqaha, the Egyptian school of thought, and Dar al-Ifta al-Masri, and those that followed their manhaj, of the opinion that it does break your fast. Now, I just need to understand how many people here use it. I use it, asthma puffer. Who else uses it? About 5, 6 people, 7 people? Okay. What you can do, ikhwani, if it's a regular occurrence that you use this asthma puffer, my advice is go speak to your doctor. He'll give you something called a preventer. These asthma puffers, the relievers only last from about 3 to 4 to 5, maybe 6 hours if you use it properly. A preventer will last you 12 hours. So if you use a preventer at suhoor, and you've got a 12-hour stretch, you will last 12 hours, bi'idhnillah azza wa jal, where you don't need to use another asthma puffer. Does that make sense? So if I go to my doctor and say, listen, I'm a Muslim, I'm fasting, I can't use the puffer during the day, I might be exposed to triggers that might trigger my asthma attack, I need something, can I get something lightweight? So he'll give you something called salmeterol or etc. These are called preventers. They last longer in your system, okay? Roughly up to 12 to 14 hours. So if you take it at suhoor, you last all the way to iftar. And you take it once again at iftar, it will last all the way to suhoor, and so forth. Okay, ikhwani? This is just to get out of the khilaf. Getting out of the khilaf is rahmah, is something that's highly recommended. If you're able to get out of the difference of opinion, do so, just to be safeguarded. However, if you're unable to, and you're like, no, I'm not convinced, etc., and you're comfortable to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Day of Judgment with the fatwa from the Saudi school of thought, I respect that. It has its legs. It's got, their definition of jawf is the stomach. Whereas the Egyptian school of thought is definition of jawf is anything that is, between the right and the left shoulder, meaning that the lungs are included into jawf. So the whole dispute is what is al-jawf and what goes into it. Okay, ikhwani? And that's one of the differences of opinion. Wallahu ta'ala alam, we respect both opinions. The next matter, which is there's two opinions on, is also something called nicotine patches. Now, some brothers and sisters who smoke, obviously during the month of Ramadan, we can't smoke. And yes, vaping will break your fast, especially if it has nicotine in it, ikhwani. So let's, I'm going to answer the questions before they start coming to me soon. So vaping, smoking, inhaling, especially those brothers that want to vape cannabis and marijuana these days, it will break your fast. Okay, ikhwani? So make sure that you avoid it. Wallahu ta'ala alam. But nicotine patches, once again, some scholars are of the opinion it doesn't break your fast. Okay? We respect that. Some other scholars are of the opinion it does break your fast. My advice for the brother or sister who's trying to quit, the moment that you hear adhan for Salat al-Maghrib, put the patch on. And this patch, there's two types of patches. Patches that last 16 hours and patches that last 24 hours. If you actually leave 24-hour patches on, it's no good for you. You actually get some side effects and nightmares and some other, dryness of mouth, all sorts of things happen. I don't recommend that. 16-hour patches are plenty. So the moment you hear adhan al-Maghrib, put the patch on. Get your nicotine. Get your fix. Let it last all the way till adhan al-Fajr. Just before adhan al-Fajr, take it off. This way you would have bombarded your blood and your system with so much nicotine, it will last the whole day for you. Does this make sense, ikhwani? This way you get also out of the khilaf and out of also the misery of not having nicotine in your system. The next thing is something called hijama. Hijama, ikhwani, is a sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he also recommended, and it has certain days and it's got its own process. There are two difference of opinion on hijama, as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had said, after al-hajim wal-mahjum, that the person doing hijama, performing hijama, and the person it's been performed on have broken their fast. However, there are other opinions that say they don't break their fast. My opinion, for whatever it's worth to you, if you need to do hijama, do it at night or do it before Ramadan or after Ramadan, just to get out of the khilaf. Okay, ikhwani? Another thing is something called dialysis. Dialysis, ikhwani, is that when the person's kidneys have issues with them. And some of the brothers and sisters who need to do dialysis spend maybe 2 or 3 days a week in dialysis clinics where they have to connect to machines, and this machine, takes all the toxins out of the kidneys and what have you. Once again, and apparently there's more than one type of dialysis. I'm not very familiar with them. So once again, sometimes some types of dialysis are just them taking out all the toxins out of your system. A lot of the scholars of the opinion that just taking toxins out of your system, out of your kidneys, there's no problems in that. Where it gets fiddly is that when there's a type of dialysis where they insert something called glucose, which is sugar and other nutrients, to your kidneys, and it gets filtered and gets into your system or what have you. Some scholars are of the opinion that it breaks your fast. My advice to the brother or sister who has dialysis, it's a case-by-case scenario. Speak to your Muslim doctor and speak to somebody who can assess your case, because it is a case-by-case depending on the type of kidney issue that you have. طيب. Now, we've spoken earlier about local anesthetics. So local anesthesia, whether in the teeth or on the skin, etc. There's something called general anesthesia. General anesthesia, ikhwani, is when the whole body is under anesthesia, where they're performing like a heart surgery and open head surgery, all sorts of surgeries. Or for whatever reason you're under anesthesia. Okay, for general. The consensus there, ikhwani, is that if the person is unconscious the whole day, the entire day, that it breaks the fast. I hope this makes sense. So let's say, God forbid, you end up in hospital, they're doing anesthesia for you and you're under. You can't feel a thing. Once I had to do an operation and they put me in anesthesia, you count 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, you don't even finish counting, and you wake up maybe half a day later. Okay? I've experienced this myself. You don't feel a thing. You wake up and they do all sorts of things in you. Now, if the person is under anesthesia, so they can't remember what happened, he was asleep or she was asleep for the entire day, we're talking about the fasting day, then the majority of schools of thought are of the opinion that the fast has been broken, even if you haven't eaten or drank. Okay, khani? But if the person is conscious part of the day you are awake. So maybe after suhoor, after fajr, you're awake for a little bit, and then they put you in anesthesia at 9 o'clock, and then you wake up 5 p.m. So you're out for 8 hours, but in the morning you're awake, in the evening you're awake just before iftar. Some of the schools of thought, like for example Imam Ahmad or Imam Shafi'i, then are of the opinion that the fast is accepted. The Maliki school of thought is of the opinion that the fast is not accepted. The Hanafi school of thought is always interesting, alhamdulillah. If the person is awake before zawal is when the sun is in the middle and it just moves. If the person is awake before zawal, around midday, then their entire then they renew their intention and fast and continue fasting. So let's say you go to general anesthesia at 9 a.m. and you wake up just before dhuhr, maybe you wake up at 11 a.m. The Hanafis are of the opinion you continue fasting. The Malikis are of the opinion that no, you don't fast. Khalas, you've broken your fast. The Hanabil and the Shafi'i are of the opinion you continue fasting. Okay, ikhwani? Any questions on anesthesia? Anyone planning to give birth or anything? No? Alright, beautiful. طيب, we're nearly there, ikhwani, hang in there, inshallah. These are the differences of opinion. طيب, who can actually break their fast? And this is also a common question that is asked commonly. And now I've taken a lot, inshallah, I'll be finished very soon. Who can actually break their fast? Who has an excuse, an Islamic excuse to actually break their fast? If a person is traveling, so if I'm traveling, and traveling is not from here to Bankstown Square. Traveling, ikhwan, is when you get out of the city that you're in. And some of the scholars have specified it to whether 81 or 83 or 87 kilometers, and or 91, whatever it is. Okay, and some of the scholars have said if you leave the city that you're in and you've finished seeing the houses in your city, okay, ikhwani, and you've traveled. And some have specified it for 3 days and 3 nights, and the list goes on. So traveling, ikhwani, yeah? If you go on a plane from here to Melbourne, that's considered traveling. Okay? But if you go, wallah, from here to Sydney CBD and come back on the same day, that's not traveling. Okay, ikhwani? Just so we're clear. Secondly, pregnancy. If a sister is pregnant and she fears harm on herself, harm on the baby, then she has to break her fast. I'm going to repeat that. If a sister is pregnant and she fears she's been told you're going to harm yourself or harm the baby, then she has to break her fast. If she doesn't fear, mashallah, some sisters, you look and she's got like, mashallah, 8, 9 kids, and she's like, yeah, I fast every year, I've got no problems, no problem, sister. You want to fast? Go for gold. If it doesn't harm you, it doesn't harm the baby. If there's any harm on you, or the baby, or you and the baby, you have to break your fast, ukhti. Now, breastfeeding, same story. Some sisters, whether they fast or don't fast, mashallah, they've got heaps of milk to give their children. And some sisters, if she doesn't eat and have her coffee and wallahi have her morning tea and have her God knows what, she will not have milk. And who's going to suffer if she doesn't have milk? The baby. She can break her fast. I will talk about how you make it up in a second. Okay, ikhwani? طيب. Last but not least, if you're sick. If a person is sick, can they break their fast or can't they break their fast? Let's go into it. There's sickness, ikhwani. There's 2 types of sicknesses that you're allowed to break your fast in. The man flu, for example, you shouldn't break your fast from. Unless you get really bad flu and wallahi you're bedridden and you've got extreme high temperatures and etc. But the 2 types of sicknesses that you break your fast from, ikhwani, are if the sickness will become prolonged by me fasting, meaning that I have a severe infection. Oh, like if you guys remember COVID. COVID was one of those things that some people didn't even know they had COVID, and some other people were bedridden for 3 weeks. Okay, and some people lost their lives. People had so many different experiences with COVID, the same disease. It depends how it affects you. If I am sick with COVID, I am sick with a very severe infection, with the flu, with I lost a lot of blood due to an accident, etc. If by me fasting, I'm going to prolong the sickness, meaning the sickness could be over in a day or 2 if I take medication, if I break my fast, take medication, look after myself, and it'll be over. By me fasting, it's going to be prolonged. Instead of a day or 2, it becomes a week or 2. Then I am entitled to break my fast. I'll repeat this, ikhwani. There's 2 reasons why you break your fast as a sick person. If the sickness will be prolonged, by you fasting, then you're entitled to break your fast. Wallahu alam. Tayyib. If the severity of the sickness will get worse while you're fasting, then you're allowed to break your fast so that the severity becomes less. Meaning, if I have a lot of pain, I had a car accident, God forbid, and I need to take a painkiller, and my arm was broken, my leg was broken, something was broken, I'm in a lot of pain. So if I don't take medication, if I don't break my fast, I'll be in a lot of pain, and my condition is going to become worse. My infection is going to become worse or stronger, or the pain will be stronger, or I'll not, the infection will get even worse. Like, it will go just from my nose, my throat, all the way to my lungs, and it spreads in the body, etc. Then I'm entitled to break my fast. But wallah, I've got a mild headache. Wallah, I'm a bit tired. I'm a bit thirsty. That's not a sickness, ikhwani. We need to man up. We need to step up. Being tired, being exhausted, being thirsty, hungry, whatever, doesn't break your fast. Wallahu ta'ala alam. And we finish off very soon, inshallah. Last topic. Any questions about sickness before we move on? Okay, that's a very good question. So with diabetes, ikhwani, diabetes people, our brothers or sisters who have low insulin in their body, so they have to take medicine, sometimes insulin injections. By the way, insulin injections do not break your fast. Insulin injections do not break your fast. If a person's diabetic and they don't eat or drink, and their blood sugar levels keep dropping down until they go unconscious, or they become hallucinating. I've seen those, ikhwani, before, where the person becomes hallucinating. Like they've got so much low sugar, they can collapse. It's highly recommended, even from a medical perspective, to have some sweets or jelly beans or something on them, so that, God forbid, something happens to them, they can eat the jelly bean or whatever. There's even an injection called glycopit or something. It's got like a high dose of glucose in it. If the person is fasting and they know, I'm diabetic, I'm going to collapse, I'm going to be harmed, then they have the concession. If it's going to harm them, if it's going to harm their body, harm their mind, they have the concession to break their fast and repeat the day later. If, however, wallah, I'm diabetic, but I'm borderline diabetic, and I can fast, but I need to be careful, then it's highly recommended they actually fast. So really, it is a case-by-case scenario. And every person, they've got these little diabetes machines where you could test your blood, make sure your blood sugar doesn't go too low. Make sure your blood sugar doesn't go too low, okay? And monitor your medications. It is a challenge, and Allah's testing you. Be patient with it. If you're going to harm yourself, if you're going to harm your body, your mind, your soul, you're allowed to break your fast. You're entitled. But if you can fast, then fasting is better only if you can. If you can't, break your fast. Wallahu alam. طيب. Obligation to make up. Make up meaning, I broke my fast. I am, I went to the dentist and, some blood went into my throat or in my stomach. Or I was sick. I had COVID or had the flu, whatever. I had to, when do I have to make up the day and when don't I have to make up the day? And that's the last topic. If the illness is a chronic illness, a bad tooth is not a chronic illness. A flu is not a chronic illness. Cancer, wal'iyadu billah, a lot of the times it becomes chronic. It becomes ongoing. It becomes even till death. If a person has a chronic illness is like high blood pressure, where they've had it for decades, they're going to continue to have it till they think. Or diabetes, as brother mentioned. And many other diseases are considered to be chronic illnesses. With chronic illnesses, ikhwani, if the person is unable to fast, I've got diabetes, I've got high blood pressure, I've got low blood pressure, I've got, angina, I've got something which I can die if I don't take my medicine. Okay? What do? They are entitled to break their fast and pay the fidya, which is something we'll talk about in the future, inshallah. However, if the disease is curable meaning that I had the flu, I had an operation, I was unconscious, I went to the dentist and something happened, I had an infusion, something like that's curable, it's short term, then that day that you broke, you just repeat it outside the month of Ramadan. Does this make sense? So if you break a day from a disease that's curable meaning that it's a short-term disease, you have to repeat the day. If it's something that you're going to have this disease for the rest of your life, then obviously you can't fast in Ramadan or outside Ramadan, then you pay the fidya. We talked now about the sisters who are pregnant or breastfeeding, etc. And there's a difference of opinion on this matter. If the sister is unable to fast, so she's unable to fast. So if she fasts, she's pregnant, she's going to harm herself and the baby. There's an opinion that she just repeats the day. There's an opinion that she doesn't have to repeat the day, just pay the fidya. My opinion to that sister is repeat the day. If you're able to afford to pay the fidya, do so. If you're able to, and that way you cover yourself. If you're able to. If you can't, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on you. Ikhwani, that is the fiqh of fasting. It's a crash course. As I said, it sometimes takes us 16 hours. I was hoping to finish in less than 60 minutes. We covered in the fiqh of fasting, we covered the pillars, we covered what breaks your fast, what doesn't break your fast, some of the medications that break your fast, some of the medications that don't break your fast, matters of difference of opinion, who needs to repeat their fast and who doesn't have to repeat their fast. Any questions? The fidya? That is a good question. Look, it's it'amu miskin. It's like usually it's like a meal. Okay, and how many, like my recommendation for the fidya is to actually contact the Muslim charity organizations, because I haven't checked what the fidya is for this year, so I don't want to tell you the wrong thing. So it's usually what is an average meal. Okay, so it's like how much they charge. Sometimes they charge $20, $15, $10, depends on who you're feeding sometimes. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's correct. You pay fidya. Wallahu ta'ala alam, yeah. So the question is, ikhwani, if a person is sick and they can't fast, whether it's cancer, whether it's ongoing medication, whatever it is, how much fidya do I pay? Okay, do I feed the person, a poor person in Australia, or a poor person in Arabia, or in India, or in Africa, wherever I'm from? Yeah, it depends, wallahu ta'ala alam, on where the person resides. If I'm living in Australia, I shouldn't be sending the fidya to people, or the equivalent of the fidya in a poor country. However, if you're some of the scholars of the opinion, no, a fidya is fidya. They're poor people, they can eat, and it's better to send money there than here. What I recommend, and that's just my recommendation, always get out of the khilaf. So if there is an option to send your money overseas, send the equivalent of a meal here. Let's say a meal here. What's an average meal these days? $15? You know, if you go to Al Jannah or you go to Rash's, or you're not going to walk away with less. The bare minimum is $15. Yeah, today, a falafel sandwich and a drink is $15. So, like, a kebab is about $20 with a drink. Don't buy the drink; it's $15. So it's like, send that equivalent if you're able to, and feed as many people with it as you can. Does that make sense? Especially in poor countries, ikhwani, because then you might be able to feed 20, 30 people. Wallahu ta'ala. And تفضل. How do you end up being unsure? Jahiliyyah. Okay, that's a good question. So I repented recently. I'm 25 years old. I'm 30 years old. I can't remember how many days I didn't fast. I can't remember how many days I didn't pray, etc. There's two opinions that I'm aware of. When it comes to praying, some scholars of the opinion, khalas, the moment you repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and your repentance is accepted, it revokes what happened in the past. And that's an opinion. Another opinion which I respect, which is pray extra prayers that you يغلب عليك الظن, that you become confident that you've covered all the prayers. What about fasting? It's a math calculation, ikhwani. Let's say I am 20 years old. I'm 30 years old, yeah? I'm 30 years old. People these days reach puberty around the age of 12. So from the age of 12 to the age of 30, there are 18 years of fasting, give or take. Let's say I only fasted 10 years of those. That means there was 8 years of me not fasting. Okay, it doesn't mean you have to fast them all together. Yeah? What you can do is fast to the best of your ability. If you're sick, if fasting really affects you, it's too much, you're scared that it's going to impact your deen, etc. You're scared that it's going to make you debilitated, etc. Divide it if you can. Okay? If you can't and you've given up, then go discuss that matter one-on-one with somebody who will give you a fatwa on it. Does that make sense? So let's say if I have 10 years worth of fasting that I need to do, look for ways, try to do it to the best of your ability. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Fear Allah and do the right thing towards Allah to the best of your ability. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want to exhaust you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want to burden you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves you and wants you to do your best. The moment you do your best, خلاص. Okay, إخواني? I hope that answers your question, أخي. Does it or doesn't it? Okay, so is this person chronic or non-chronic illness? Well, it's not. It's jahiliyyah. Okay, look, it's slightly different, yeah. So let's say a person was in hospital. Okay, as a person was, a brother or a sister was in hospital. A sister was giving birth. She had complications. She ended up in hospital. She missed out on the whole of the month of Ramadan, and this happens a lot to sisters, yeah. What is the highly recommended is the moment she's out of hospital, she's feeling better, etc., start fasting. Unfortunately, what do we all do? We'll leave our days till just before Ramadan. And like these days, you'll notice a lot of sisters are fasting, yeah? They chose the hottest days to fast. So they're catching up on all the fasting from last year, these sisters. So what is highly recommended? That they knock it off straight away, but they delay it. Let's say the month of Ramadan comes, and they haven't finished the fasting from before. Is that what you're asking? They're still fasting. My understanding, and the way I was taught and the way that I practice is that it is still a debt on their necks because they're able to fast. Does that make sense? So they need to, the moment that the month of Ramadan is over and Eid is over, they need to fast those days. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Okay? Do they have to pay a fidya for the delay? That is a matter of, wallahu alam. As far as I understand it, it's a difference of opinion. But it is a debt on them. It is a debt on them, and it keeps accumulating. I hope that answers it. So, Khwani, let's say, and that's why I gave you guys an example. Let's say I'm 30 years old now, and I reach puberty at the age of 12. Fasting is obligatory on any person that's above the age of, above the age of puberty. You reach puberty, fasting is obligated on you. I reached puberty at the age of 12. I'm 30 years old. There's 18 years of fasting. Let's say I only remember fasting for 10 years. That means there's 8 years of fasting. Divide those over the next few years. They're only 30 days a year. 30 times 8 is 240 days. Divide them over 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years. No problems, Akhwani, as long as you knock them. In terms of paying fidya, Wallahu alam, Wallahu ta'ala a'lam, you don't have to pay a fidya if you intend to fast and make them up, especially if you're repenting. Especially if I repented, at the age of 30 or 40 or 50, and I've got like 20, 30 years worth of fasting. If every year I have to pay a fidya for it, I'm going to go broke. Does that make sense, Ikhwani? So it's like, as long as you intend to make them up, and this is if we go down the path of the opinion that you have to make them up. There is an opinion that if you repent to Allah sincerely from not praying, from not fasting, etc., that it is wiped off. I'm of the opinion that no, try to make it up to the best of your ability. Allah ta'ala alam. Any other? Tfaddal. Yes, you can. So the question is, can I prick my skin, get some blood to test my blood sugar? Yes, you can. Naam, wallahu ta'ala alam. A lot of diabetic people, a lot of sweet people in this crowd, huh? طيب, anyone else? طيب, khair inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Ikhwani, we're going to finish with the dua. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He accepts from you and us, and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He allows us to reach the month of Ramadan in the best of conditions, and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He allows us to reach Ramadan, be forgiven in Ramadan, and come out of Ramadan as the best nation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim wa barik ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim. Allahumma hdina fi man hadayt wa afina fi man afayt wa tawallana fi man tawallayt wa barik lana fi ma atayt وقنا واصرف عنا شر ما قضيت فإنك تقضي ولا يقضى عليك إنه لا يذل من واليت ولا يعز من عاديت تباركت ربنا وتعاليت اللهم يسر لنا صيام شهر رمضان اللهم تقبل منا صيام شهر رمضان اللهم أعنا عليه بالصيام والقيام وقراءة القرآن اللهم اجعله رمضانا مرحوما مغفورا لنا يا رب العالمين اللهم تقبله منا تقبلا منك يا رب العالمين اللهم اجعلنا فيه من المعتوقين من النار فيه يا رب العالمين اللهم اجعل صيامنا خالصا لوجهك الكريم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. جزاكم الله khair. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from you. Keep us in your dua in the month of Ramadan. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He makes this one of the best Ramadans we've ever experienced. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.